So what motivated you to get involved in immigration services, to be more specific?
Well, what happened about 15 years ago, I was fortunate enough to meet a young lady who had a translation company, and it was providing translation and interpreting for immigration court cases out of Texas. So I took over her sales department and built up her sales department to the point where she no longer needed government contracts. She was self-sufficient and she had a built-up roster and annual revenue that would support her without the government contracts for providing interpreting services for immigrants out of the state of Texas. Okay. From there, I moved on. I opened up my own.
So what did you all really do? You got people of different languages to come and represent clients?
Correct. Well, for this particular lady, she only needed Spanish interpreters for immigration cases out of Texas. Whenever there was an immigration court case that needed interpreters, her company would provide the interpreters for all those cases out of Texas, state of Texas. So that was my introduction into the interpreting translation world. After I finished my consultation requirement with her, which was 9 months, I decided, you know what, let me try and do this on my own. So I opened up an interpreting translation company. At that point, I traveled around the country trying to create contracts and partnerships with legal firms to provide interpreters and translators. And then I ended up doing a lot of work for California Workers' Comp Division, Southern California, and started doing that. Then I decided, well, you know, maybe let me expand a little bit. So I decided to learn as much as I could about being a court reporter. So fortunately, over about a year or two or so, I was able to adopt court reporting services into our organization. From that point on, I then started to provide this service nationwide through government contracts. And it was just a progressive kind of thing. So first we started doing interpreting, translating, court reporting. Then we started providing mediators for mediation cases.
So you're talking about general legal services.
Right. So it was just by chance. It just started from one seat to the next seat. And next thing you know, after many years, after about maybe 4 or 5 years, I was able to provide like a one-stop shop for a lot of law firms and a lot of government agencies where they could come and they could get from one vendor, being ourselves, court reporting services, interpreting services, translation services, mediation services, and document retrieval, which is a great service to a lot of firms because a lot of times they don't want to deal with many vendors. They just want to deal with one vendor, a one-stop shop place. And it was kind of innovative because at that particular time, back in about 2009, 2010, there was only really about 2 or 3 companies nationwide that were providing a one-stop shop service.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so in 2014, I decided to incorporate 2015, I decided that I wanted to incorporate immigration. It took me a little while to get that started because I had my own health issues back in the end of 2016. But once I was back on my feet and ready to go again, we brought immigration in as a service. And then we realized that immigration was a much bigger animal on its own, and it really needed its own attention. So we took it away from the for-profit portion of what we do and created a nonprofit. This way it would become, we would be able to hopefully procure some government grants, some community funding, and we would be able to then provide services at a much lower rate than what people are normally charged when they go to an attorney for immigration services.
So basically speaking, Atlas Immigration Foundation is an immigration foundation, services, whatever we want to call it, but it's a 501c3. It's a non-profit organization.
Correct.
That is going to be serving people. And would you be serving people who cannot afford?
Yes, that's the whole idea.
So how do you help someone who needs to get some immigration assistance. We'll get down to the fine prints of immigration assistance. Who cannot afford?
Right. So currently, from the onset of when we started doing immigration work, we consider ourselves, and we practice, and we act as if, and only as if, we're a document preparation and filing company. So if an individual wants assistance in preparing documents, filing documents, this is what we do. If they need legal representation, or if they need legal advice, we have a pool of attorneys that we associate with that offer their services through our nonprofit at a much lower rate. So, for example, you have legal aid societies out here that will provide pro bono work, free charges to the community. We're not at that level yet because we haven't been able to procure government grants and funding yet, and that's only simply because we just haven't really gotten off the ground yet. Now we finally have gotten off the ground, and plus we had to deal with this whole COVID situation. So, but in due time, we'll be able to offer all of these services, a lot of these services, for free. But right now they're at a very nominal rate.
Okay, beautiful.